The biggest thing that we have been looking at, why AI projects fail. What are the characteristics that make them fail? And then is there a repeatable process that we can do to avoid all of those pitfalls that happen when something fails? It turns out there's a number of different characteristics of those. And it's also like a crazy number of AI projects fail. It's somewhere between 50 and 90%, depending on who you talk to.
Welcome to Commit and Push, the podcast about how great software really gets built. I'm Damien Filiatro, your host and the founder of Scalable Path. Each episode, I talk with founders, developers, and leaders about the decisions, trade-offs, and hard lessons behind successful digital products. Let's get into it. All right, so joining me today is Dan Saffer, Associate Director of Outreach at Carnegie Mellon's Human-Computer Interaction Institute, longtime design leader and the author of 4 books on UX and product design, including Microinteractions. Dan has spent over 20 years shaping products at Twitter, Flipboard, and even in robotics. And today he's helping bridge the gap between industry and academia at one of the world's top HCI programs. Dan, welcome to the Commit and Push podcast.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I really enjoy doing what I do, which, like as you said, is both this kind of outreach and I guess now I shape young minds to to teach them the stuff that they need to commit and deploy. So yes, it'll be fun.
All right. So why don't you start by telling us just a bit about your background?
Sure. I got into technology designing in the 90s, and I just kind of, like a lot of people my age, just kind of fell into it, was working at some startups, working at some consultancies, some big agencies, and then I realized, oh wait, I should probably be trained in this. And so I went back to school, went to Carnegie Mellon, got my master's degree in interaction design, and then started working in San Francisco at places like Adaptive Path, Smart Design, started my own studio, and then went to work at, like you said, at a robotics startup, and Jawbone, the people that did the Jambox and the wearables. And then I worked at Twitter for about 4 years. And this is all pre-Elon, I should say. And then, yeah, my last job before coming back and becoming a professor is working at Flipboard for a year and a half. And yeah, it's been kind of a wild ride. And yeah, my career trajectory has been like, I've been fortunate that I've ridden like 3 or 4 different waves of new technology. First web, then mobile, then social, and now kind of AI, which is an amazing thing to be tangentially a part of and witness, which is kind of where I am right now with, teaching a lot of my students and kind of bringing a lot of the research that Carnegie Mellon has done over the last 10 years. Although Carnegie Mellon has been involved in AI since like the 50s or something insane, but bringing a lot of the research that's happened over the last couple of years in academia kind of out to professionals. And that's been a blast because I feel like we're all figuring this thing out together. And so it's fun also to kind of bring this stuff back from professionals who are wrestling with this kind of back into the classroom and into the research that we're doing. So it's a great job.
Yeah. Just a quick little note. That's funny that you worked for Adaptive Path. I think before I started my company, Scalable Path, I think I liked that name. And then I was like, oh yeah, Scalable Path. That sounds cool too. Let's go with that. But yeah, cool.
We always had kind of a love-hate with the name where it was like, because no one ever got it right. They were like, there's something street, adaptive street, like, so I don't know if you had the same thing.
Well, the spelling isn't the easiest, but I still like it. So you mentioned some research. Is there any particular research that you're trying to share that Carnegie Mellon's been doing?
Yeah, the biggest thing that we have been looking at, and by we, I mean an army of PhDs and my colleagues, John Zimmerman and Jody Ferlizzi, have been looking a lot at why AI projects fail. What are the characteristics that make them fail? And then is there a repeatable process that we can do to avoid all of those pitfalls that happen when something fails, when these AI projects fail? And it turns out there's a number of different characteristics of those, and it's also like a crazy number of AI projects fail. It's somewhere between 50 and 90%, depending on who you talk to. Our number is somewhere around 80, but Wall Street Journal has it at 50. Gartner, I think, has it at like 85 or 90. Like it is an enormous amount of projects that fail.
How's that compare? What's the baseline for a general software project? Do you know?
It is double the amount of regular
Okay.
software projects. So now what I don't know is how this compares to like when mobile was launched or something like that. There's like, okay, well, how many experiments did they try and it kind of crashed and burned? So, but it's apparently double what a normal project is, which I
And what
guess
does fail mean?
fail means either two things. It means not deployed, where it never launches, or it launches and just has a spectacular flop and is pulled off the market or is shut down in some way. Like the feature is shut down or the company shuts down, or so that's kind of how they're defining the failure part of things.
Got it. Got it.
You hope you hope that it fails before you get to market, because it's so much worse, particularly when it's like a big ethical problem or a big issue that causes this PR nightmare that then you have to clean up. So it's better to fail quietly, I think, than to fail broadly and publicly.
So tell us, what are the reasons that they fail?
Oh, so a couple reasons. The first is that the data is not available or the data is bad. All kind of modern AI projects run on data. So if you can't get your hands on good data, or you can't get clean data, or the data can't be labeled well, that makes it fail. If the model is bad, like it requires like incredible performance, and there's a million edge cases to it, like, and this is what we've seen for 15 years now with self-driving cars. The model's got to be perfect, the performance has got to be amazing, the accuracy's got to be really high. So yeah, if the model can't reach the amount of performance that it needs, that's another reason. Ethical problems are the one that we hear the most about, where it's like all about, hey, Google is labeling people of color as gorillas, those kinds of things where it's like, oh my God, or hey, it's generating World War II Nazi soldiers as Asian people. It's like, what? So those kinds of failures. And then the two ones that are like closest to my heart, which are related to design, are all about that it not doesn't provide any value to the organization, or it doesn't provide any value to users, to customers. So it doesn't justify its ROI. And those are kind of the big five, where it's like, wow, all of these things are all kind of these little traps that you can step into. And so the big idea actually is that people are choosing a lot of the wrong problems to go after and a lot of the wrong AI projects to try to pursue. And if you try to do ones that are technically feasible, are financially viable, and have like big user acceptance, you're going to probably beat all of those odds, where you're much more likely to have a successful project, one that launches, is valuable, has good ROI. So those are that's kind of the big picture of the research that's been happening over the last 5 or 6 years.
Can we go back to what you said at first? You said there's not good enough data, and then you kind of just after that said, and if the model's not good. And are you saying that those are one and the same? Like the model's not good because the data is not good, or is two separate things?
Two separate things. The
Okay.
the model sometimes is not great.
Even if there's great data.
Even if there's excellent data, there's amazing data for self-driving cars. We have an incredible wealth of data. They've been collecting data for over a decade now. So they on every kind of road imaginable. But the models are very, very hard because they require this incredible performance. And yeah, on the flip side, yeah, is the other thing where the data is bad, and the model could be great. The model could be a perfect, great, simple model, and if the data that you put into it's bad, it's not going to generate great outputs.
It's interesting. You said, okay, take the self-driving car example. You said we've got plenty of data. The model isn't good, but then you also said, that it has to be perfect. And I just had another conversation last week, and it was about how they were going after a use case where it had to be perfect and there was some other property of it, but just that's not really a property of the model per se. It's the property of the application that it has to be really good because you're going to run over someone or kill someone if you fail. So it's like that. Is that a failure of the model or a failure of a challenging use case with really high bar for success because there's a high risk? It's got to be so perfect. Whereas if you see what I'm saying?
No, I 100% get what you're saying. I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to parse what the difference would be. If you had a perfect model, you could have a perfect outcome. And I think those things are 1 to 1. I'm trying to kind of
let me put it this way. Let's say that you had the exact same data and the exact same model. In one case, you were, it was in a world where everyone was wearing armor, or you could mess up 1% of the time and you wouldn't kill people. Maybe that's not the best example, but it's a function of the environment and the use case that you're trying to pursue with business.
Yes, for sure. So in that world, a 99% accuracy is fine. And that's kind of what we're trying to teach the students. And that's kind of what the research says is look for those opportunities where you can be 90% accurate and it doesn't matter. If you get a bad book recommendation, your life goes on.
Yes, exactly.
But I mean, we see this so there's a lot of money being spent now on medical AI, and it's the same, it can be 99% accurate, but do you want to be the 1% whose cancer is not detected?
But I think we're going to have to just have reckoning where we say, okay, well, what's the human failure rate, right? It's like we set a higher bar for the computers, but I mean, I don't know. I don't have the data, but
I mean, you're right. What do we tolerate in human beings? I mean, in theory, self-driving cars are going to be much better than most people on the road. So do we tolerate the turning over of that? I think some of it is an accountability problem where it's okay, I get hit by a self-driving car, who's responsible? Whereas if my doctor doesn't diagnose my cancer, or if an actual driver hits me, well, they're responsible. I can sue them. They have insurance. Some of it is okay, are we just abdicating responsibility by saying, okay, oh, that was the model's problem. Sorry. Maybe it could be it's a societal thing too.
Yeah,
and
or
think some of that.
maybe the companies are making so much money off these things, then they set up funds and then they can be sued, and it's still worth it. I don't know.
It very well may be that in certain cases it makes sense to do that. I also think in certain cases it makes sense for there to be some kind of human in the loop. so that it's not just everything is just made, the decision is made 100% by the AI. But instead, what if I am presented with options, and the AI's confidence level in the prediction, like, is the prediction, I have a 99% chance think that this is 100, that this is accurate. Okay, I may glance, but if it's an 80, maybe once it starts to drift down to like 95, well, maybe that's when a human gets involved. An actual doctor comes to take a look at it. And not even to say that, there's a lot of research going on now about the kind of explainability of those outputs. Things like saying there's a 99% accuracy tend to give people a false sense that, yes, it actually is 99% accurate. And of course, there's no chance that there's that 1%. We're just really bad at that as human beings. And yeah, I mean, I forget, in the 2016 race, there was only a presidential race, there was only a 30% chance Trump's going to win, according to statistics. And so people were like, it's not going to happen. But 30% is a pretty big chance. Apparently it does happen. And so it did. We're just very bad at probabilities like that. And apparently the research now is that any kind of explanation tends to make us trust the AI more, sometimes more than is warranted. So that's an interesting. Sometimes it is far better to not have any explanation about how the AI is generating outcomes than to have some explanation. And that blew my mind. I was like, wait, what? What are you talking about? Like, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting into an explainability now, and maybe we can take a step back. Like, how well does that even work? I've read something recently. Was it Perplexity that put it out? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. All the different models of how the AIs explain themselves.
Yeah, I mean, how well does explainability work? I mean, how explainable are most LLMs at this point?
Almost, I mean, I would say this isn't exactly my area, but I would say, like, not very.
Yeah.
So much of them are, they have these internal models of the mind kind of thing, and ways of reasoning that, even if it is telling us, I'm doing step 1, step 2, step 3, it may not actually be doing that, or it may be doing that in a way that we do not understand, that we wouldn't recognize as it doing that. And so, yeah, I think the inner workings of AI are always extremely difficult to explain. The only thing that people are saying when it comes to explainability that seems to work are things that are actionable, like when I detect something that's wrong. And even that with LLMs is very hard. But being able to say, okay, I know this is wrong. Can I report this back? But yeah, all the research is saying, for the most part, don't bother trying to explain how the AI works. Instead, only try to explain how the outcome is derived, or how the outcome, what factors went into this outcome. And even that is very hard. Even that is, okay, especially if you get a foundation model or something that's off the shelf, you may not know the data that's put into it. You may not know how it's trained. You may not know the workings of it at all. So, hey, I just tuned this thing so that it works on our HR department, on our HR documents. I don't know how it works.
So, a quick pause here. I wanted to tell you a bit about why I started my software staffing company, Scalable Path. Back in 2008, I was working on a client project with some developers in Argentina, and I saw how amazing it was working with people in my time zone who were just as available as people in my office. So in 2010, I started Scalable Path to help companies take advantage of this underutilized talent pool. And since then, we've built a platform of over 40,000 developers, and we've placed over 600 of them with over 300 clients. So if you're looking to hire top-notch dev talent at a fraction of the cost of hiring locally, visit scalablepath.com/commit-push. And as a listener of the podcast, you can get 20% off your first month. I'd love for you to give us a try. Are there any examples of products that you think are doing a good job with explainability or a poor job?
Nothing like leaps to mind offhand. I do think that more places have warning labels on things. Hey, check this. And I think that is something that has really risen in the last year that I think is nice. The new kind of interaction pattern of showing where results have been derived from is like from things like Perplexity and other places. I think that is a great step in figuring out and being able to just kind of backtrack and be like, okay, why does it think of this thing? But again, it's hidden under that rock. You have to go kind of dig for it, and you have to have some background in that field or whatever is being talked about in order to be like, that doesn't seem right. And so it's sometimes the fact checking can be longer than actually had I just looked it up myself.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I mean, so your original background was in UI,
Yeah.
UI UX, and you wrote this book, Microinteractions, and now, I guess you're saying, first there was the web, then there was mobile, which was sort of a new, smaller screen UI. Actually, it's even quite different at the beginning of mobile. And now we've got AI, which is almost this new interaction. Is there research on this that you want to share, or do you have just your own opinions on what are some of the best practices around UI for AI?
Sure. I mean, right now the kind of standard paradigm for everything is, hey, let's put a chatbot style interface onto this thing. Let's just put a text field. People can figure it out. I think that's kind of been the paradigm for at least, for 2 years now. And I think people are starting to see the limitations of that, mostly because it's hard to tell what the limitations of the system are, and being able to do manipulations of the system without knowing what the formula is. You can liken it almost back to like, when we had command lines. You need to know the command in order to bring up something else. And then we started to move to GUIs, to graphical user interfaces. And I think we are starting to move in that direction now, where more and more, for lack of a better word, Chrome and tools are starting to appear so that I can manipulate what is being generated, or I can comment on it, or I can say, hey, this is a mistake, or I can refine it and be like, oh, show me your logic in this. Oh, that piece I disagree with. Take that, delete that, rather than typing in delete this part. Like, you can actually physically, click on it, or those kinds of things, and say, hey, I want something different. I mean, the other amazing thing with kind of the current state of AI UI is that you can start to feed it examples of things. And that's amazing, where it's like, okay, I want something that's kind of like this. Can you make something like this? Which is fabulous. And the last thing that we have been working a lot with are what we call adaptive UIs, or AUIs, where how do you start to put AI into a product where it's not entirely hidden in the background, and it's not entirely visible as its own thing. It's integrated more into the app itself, and is just kind of it just kind of works. It changes the navigation. It changes the notifications. It can change like the interaction flows based on your past behavior and based on behavior of other people. And we don't really think of it as AI, it just starts to appear. And I mean, this is nothing super new. I mean, things like predictive text are a great example of this, where we don't think of that as AI, but it is. It's starting to predict text for us, as we start writing. Well, what if it could start predicting the behavior that we're going to do? Why, when I go to Starbucks, do I always have to run through the same pattern of behavior to get the same thing that I get all the time? At a certain point of the day, it should prompt me, do you want your usual? Okay, great. Yes, I do. Or nah, not today. It should know when I'm near my, and some of this is just plain smart design, but some of it is, AI powered, where it's like, okay, whenever you're near here and it's hot, you're going to get the ice chai versus the regular one, those kind of things. It should just start to know and offer those up to me without me having to go through a traditional flow of choose the store, choose what I want. Or, like it could be adaptive and say, okay, well, let's erase these 5 steps that you don't need, because I know, because I know stuff about you and can make this guess. Now I could, now a good practice is also be able to say, no, I actually don't want that. Or, hey, now, you know what, today I'm feeling like I need something different. I want mochaccino or something. I'm going to do something else, and allow you to get back to that regular flow. But there's no reason why there's no further reason aside from complication that everyone's UI needs to look the same going forward. And in fact, we'll start to see pretty radical explorations of this in the next couple years. So things being like, okay, you never use these things, I'm just going to hide them over here. And now this is definitely a problem for both users who are like, wait, can I do that with this? Like having to hunt around for something, or like losing all their muscle memory, about how to actually use the app. And it also can suck for the people making the app, because they're like, well, how do I introduce a new feature if your app is completely if your app is super customized to you? How do I tell you that something is here when you've got this like super narrow flow that's all you use the app for? These are some interesting problems that I think that we're going to have soon.
Yeah, it seems so far we've really been, a lot of the use cases are based on, training on massive amounts of text from the internet and everywhere. And the example you're giving with Starbucks, you couldn't just take a model that's been trained on text and then have it predict what my order is going to be. So the complexity for a company like Starbucks, or maybe it's a point of sale company that has like massive data, or builds a model that knows that can get trained on everyone that ever uses the point of sale, or for a business. But it's definitely more complicated to build, because it's not just this general text, predictor that so much of what we're doing is right now.
Right, exactly. I mean, it is very based on your personal behavior, or the behavior of a group of people. Like you're saying, like, everyone who uses this particular point of sale does these things. So yes, it was also like very expensive to do that, right? Because you would have to do some kind of cloud processing for all of it. And now our devices are getting so powerful, and they're able to push these smaller models down onto your phone. That great, that you can start to do this kind of stuff on the small devices, and it doesn't cost, someone, it doesn't cost the company 5 cents every time to to do this.
Yeah. I'm waiting for something cool to happen on my iPhone 16 that has Apple AI, because the first thing they did completely sucked. It was like, okay, I have this phone. They said, hey, would you like us to summarize your messages? And I said, yes. And it immediately turned it on for every single one of my apps. And it sucked.
Yes.
And I no longer knew what someone said in the last message. And so then I had to go manually turn it off in every single app. I couldn't globally turn it off.
Oh my
It
God.
was such a mess.
Yeah. No, I mean, the gap between vision and execution there was huge. I mean, there's so much stuff that they s- they said in that keynote that still was nowhere near. It was complete vaporware. Like, yeah, there's a lot of hilarious things out there where they summarized it and basically just by dropping some words and made the text seem exactly the opposite. Like made like news briefs and stuff seem exactly the opposite, and so it's like, oh my God, like what I mean, and this gets to like all the, I mean, we're talking about failures. So they had to roll back a bunch of that stuff. I don't think they even do it. I don't think they summarize news anymore. At least they didn't. They stopped it for a while. I don't know if they rolled it back out again, but yeah, I mean, just a public, like embarrassment there. But, you could see I mean, it's super useful. I mean, I think the era of hyper personalization, which I think could be amazing for certain things, but boy, talk about, build your own echo chamber, could be, it could be like right around the corner for us. I mean, but some things is going to be amazing. Like I would love to, because I subscribe to like, I don't know, six or eight AI newsletters that flood my inbox every day. And I do try to keep up with them, but they're also news, so a lot of them are covering the same news. I would love a collapsed version of that maybe is a podcast that I can listen to. Stuff like that I think is going to be incredible. That's like, here's your tailored podcast for the day.
Have you heard those? I forget who does that product that might have, I'm not going to even say because I'm probably going to get it wrong, but they take a blog article and they can make it sound like two different people are having a conversation about that topic.
Yes, it is. It's Google Notebook LM.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that product. I use it all the time for writing books and long pieces and stuff. I dump all my research in there. It's great. I met the woman who is the head user researcher for that product, and she said, weirdly, the number one use case for it was people putting in their resumes and kind of work history and then having a podcast talk back to them like, wow, this person's got great experience. It was like your own personal hype man for like when you're going to like a job interview or something like that. So you could be like, oh yeah, I'm so great. And totally unexpected. They had no idea that I mean, it was meant to be used kind of how I use it for like people writing long form stuff. But yeah, people love that.
So it's not for podcasts, because when I was listening to the podcast that it generated from an article, it was like kind of that 80-20 thing. I was like, at first I was super impressed. I was like, oh my gosh, the people sounded really real. But then the conversation, when you really listened, if you cared about the details, if you cared about, it wasn't that great. It missed it. I wouldn't do it I wouldn't make a podcast using it. It kept it superficial and it missed some of the key points. And so it kind of got you 80% of the way there. And then it was kind of like what we started at the beginning. Like if you really has to be perfect, then I wouldn't use it.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely for kind of, yeah, like lightweight stuff. But I mean, the amazing thing about that product was that it was done with like it was like a shoestring budget and like tiny amount of people. And that podcast thing was just kind of like a late edition add-on. Like, oh yeah, we could do this, and that turned out to be the thing that everyone was talking about. Like,
but what's the main thing it's for then?
the main thing that it is for research, so that you can put all your research documents in there and then say, summarize this, summarize all this research, summarize what all these papers say about AI explainability. And it'll bring up like a list, and you can like refer back to individual pieces of of the research if you need to. But it's great for summaries and stuff like that. I've been using it to write the design for AI book. I've been using it to write, some personal projects and stuff like that. It's just, yeah, I really like it. I mean, again, I don't 100% trust it. Like, I'm always like, is that right? Like, and so I do spend a lot of time still fact checking it. But for some things, it's amazing. Yeah, I'm working on this historical fiction book, and it's with a real character, a real person who lived. And I put in all the kind of the research I'd done, and could do things like give me a list of the places where this person lived, and it would list them out. I'm like, that's pretty cool. That would save me a ton of time trying to figure out where my character is during the timeline that the book takes place. It was stuff like that. And had I had to go back and research it all myself, that would have sucked. That would have been like, ugh. Like, especially because I've researched this book for like 5 or 6 years now. So like, so I don't remember stuff I researched years ago, but this thing, it doesn't know the difference. Just, okay, great.
You got a
Here,
lot going on. Writing multiple books, fiction.
writing multiple books. Yeah. Teaching classes, teaching workshops to professionals. Yeah. Lots of stuff happening. But it's good. It's better to be busy than not.
Yeah. One topic that you brought up when we first spoke that I would love to hear you, illuminate us on is enshittification.
Oh, yeah.
You want to tell us what it is? And, I'm curious about if you think, AI products are equally susceptible to this process.
Sure. I mean, enshittification is a term coined by Cory Doctorow, and he was looking at cycles that large platforms seem to go through, where at the beginning, the platform is very interested in serving its users, giving its users lots of value. And then slowly it turns to giving like corporations and other folks lots of value. And then finally I think it turns into like giving itself the most value, where everything is about how do I extract the most from our users and partners, basically. And he was saying that like every social network is doing this. Google is doing this. Like everything is that, and this is why everything kind of sucks, because everything is like this like squeeze where you feel like you're not getting enough value out of it, where and you're giving it a lot of time, a lot of content, a lot of whatever it is, and you're not getting as much in return. And some platforms are worse than others about this. But I think that, the worst part about this is that AI could be like a super fuel to like increase this like so badly, and you can see Meta's starting to figure this out already, where they are starting to play with fake avatars and this kind of AI slop that just ends up in your feed because it's cheap to make. They don't have to care about an influencer. They've made the influencer, and they can just spew out this stuff that is designed for and they don't care about the accuracy of it. They're like, well, we don't fact check any of this stuff anymore. And I know that like my Facebook feed is now just filled with this from these people that I don't know, that are clearly bots, like spewing out these long essays about random film stuff, because at one point, I was looking at some, backstory of some film or something like that. And so now I get this like filling up my timeline. And it's like, well, really, I just came here to Facebook or to Instagram to like see, see my friend's kids, or see a pet, or see a funny cat video, or whatever it is, not this like engagement slop. And so I feel like, I don't know, I feel like AI could very easily make things worse.
Yeah, you're talking about how AI is like enabling enshittification of a non-AI product or like a legacy product, right? Luckily, I've spent so little time on Facebook that I haven't experienced. I've seen it on other
Good
things.
for
I
you.
notice on Pinterest, like I'm into architecture and I'll say, oh, show me pictures of, a cabin in the woods, and half the images aren't even real. Right? I want to see real projects that happen, but they're not even real. But I guess where I was going when I asked you about AI and enshittification was like these products themselves, like ChatGPT, like right now, they seem to be providing a lot of value, right? They're just because they're only worried about gaining market share and at all cost. And so they're giving so much value. And just hearing you talk about those phases that the companies go through, I'm just afraid that
They're all in phase one right now where they're like, anything, yeah, you want to do anything with this? Yeah. You can see ChatGPT start to step into phase two where it's like, oh, okay, maybe we need to start doing companies where they have like that pro level account now that is like whatever it is, $20,000 a month or something crazy. That
oh,
is like,
really?
yes, that's it's an enterprise level thing that they're saying is, I forget whether it's actually out there or whether it's announced, but it is supposed to be like, the gold standard for this kind of stuff. And so for things like, being a coder and stuff like that. And so they're trying to sell it as, hey, you don't need to hire a developer.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well,
Use this.
that's totally my world, right? Like these
Yes, exactly.
coding agents. And then they just purchased Cody, right? Or was
Yeah,
it?
something like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh no, what they purchased one of the AI agent companies, the dev coding agent companies.
Mhm,
But like,
mhm.
I have a feeling that pretty soon we're going to start seeing ads in our chat GPT conversations interspersed,
Right.
just like Google. Google's a perfect example of it was awesome at first. And then now I don't think almost, almost nothing I see above the fold on a Google search is actually a search result. It's all just sponsored. I wouldn't be surprised if ChatGPT ends up, you know, similar.
I think what is gonna be the most insidious thing, because now you cannot tell now what is, it's very hard for most people to tell errors or misinformation in what an LLM is producing. But what happens when they start slipping in like ads in there? Like if you start asking like, well, because a lot of people just treat it like a search box now, and they're like, well, what's the best, I don't know,
What's
what's the
the best
best stove
Italian restaurant
buy?
in it?
Exactly. What's
Yeah,
right. And
it's this one.
how will you know if something is falsely promoted? Is this something, are they going to label it? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, they could be doing it already and we don't even know, right? Although that might have leaked. I know that they were talking about advertising for a while, but I guess we'll see. When you generate images, is there's going to be like a McDonald's in the background of all of the free ones or something like that? So, yeah, it's bonkers.
So we're getting into it here. Why don't we switch to the roast and toast section? This is where I ask you, what's one technology or design trend that you think is overhyped? That's your roast, making things worse for users. Maybe it's something we already covered, but anything come to mind for you that's overhyped right now, for example?
I mean, the thing that we kind of joke about with AI products is like everything now has to have a sparkle on it.
Yeah.
Everything's sparkle.
Yeah.
It's sparkle this, sparkle that, and this almost ties back to what we were talking about with enshittification, where it's like, well, who is this sparkle for? And some of it is what we kind of call, well, or at least what I've been calling like shareholder centered design, where it's like, look, we have AI too. Here it is. Here it is. We have AI in our product. Love us. Give us more money, versus being actually usable. Because sometimes it's like there's just a button with like a sparkle on it. And it's like, well, what does this do when I press it? I have no idea. I mean, most people just don't know what to don't know what the sparkle means, don't know what it does, like what it's supposed to signify. This is actually the one thing that I really liked about the Apple Intelligence launch was there was only one. I only caught one sparkle, and it was in the image. One of the image generator had it as a watermark or something like that, but it was actually telling you kind of what it was doing. Oh, do you want to make this message more clear or funnier or whatever it is? It was actually kind of giving you some guidance towards what the AI was going to be doing versus there is AI here.
Like you're roasting the sparkle.
I'm sick of the sparkles.
Okay. And then how about something that you think is genuinely exciting and maybe isn't getting enough attention? Or you could just say something you think is cool, something you want people to know about.
We've talked about Notebook L, which is one of my faves. My other secret fave that I love is a sound generator called udio.com. And
how do you spell that?
UDIO.
Okay.
I think it's udio.com. It might be udio.io or something like that. You might have to fact check me on that.
I'm checking right now. Yeah, make your music, create any song, just imagine it.
Yes.
Yeah, udio.com.
udio.com. I get a kick out of it. I use it for like theme music. I make music for my students. Like each of my student teams gets their own theme music when they get up to present. Like, it's goofy, it's dumb, but it's really, I find it really well done. It's really fun to play with, and it's especially funny when you can let it do its own lyrics, or you can kind of give it your own lyrics. And there's some really, really clever ones in there.
These LLMs are so good at poetry and lyrics and just wordsmithing. It's so impressive.
It's really fun.
Cool.
The other thing that I like is I think we're using it right now, which is I really love in these new podcast tools where it provides an AI transcription straight out of the way, and then you can go in and just edit the transcription, which then edits the
video itself.
The video and
Descript does that. I haven't really played with it much, but
as someone I have done a podcast like myself in the past and have spent hours doing this, and to have it just be done like so quickly is incredible, is like mind blowing to me. Sometimes it's just like, wow, okay. So the things, that are either like delightful or like creating like these new efficiencies that you didn't even know that you needed are always those kind of like moments of delight that are what every designer looks for. So those are my two picks for roast and what's the other one?
Toast.
Roast and toast.
Yeah. Well, this has been a delightful conversation, Dan.
Yes, thanks for having me on.
Where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
I am on Blue Sky, so that is my social network du jour. I am at odannyboy.bluesky.net or whatever it is, and then I am at Carnegie Mellon, and I can be found at hcii.cmu.edu is my department.
Great. Well, it was definitely a pleasure. Love to do it again sometime.
Yeah, as more research comes out, we just launched a whole bunch of new research because the big academic conference Chi is in May, and so we just came out with a whole bunch of new research. I haven't even gone through all the papers yet to see like, okay, what can I pull out of here? But yeah, love to come back.
Cool. All right. Thanks so much, Dan.
All right. Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Commit and Push. If you found it valuable, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. And if you're building a team, check out scalablepath.com to find top developers. Until next time, keep building, keep pushing.